how many times have you woken up and just immediately felt behind, like, overwhelmed by a racing mind before your feet even hit the floor?
Oh, yeah. The mental to-do list just crushes you instantly.
Exactly. Well, today's deep dive is basically a masterclass in what we are calling morning calm. We are exploring how to literally reprogram your brain for peace.
Right. Because what we are really talking about here is gaining voluntary control over our involuntary stress responses.
Yeah, and that is such a massive concept. Imagine slipping into the sterile humming cylinder of a functional MRI scanner. You are lying completely still, and the researchers in the control room ask you to do one simple thing.
Just to think about a time in the future where you are actively living out your deepest, most personal core values.
Right. Maybe it is a moment of profound creative flow, or a scene where you are providing unshakable support to your family. And as you visualize this future scenario, the screens in the control room light up.
The blood flow in your brain dramatically shifts.
And here is the bizarre, fascinating part. The neural networks that are activating, the exact regions flooding with activity, are the exact same pathways that fire when someone hands you a stack of cash, or when you eat a rich piece of chocolate.
It is a literal neurochemical reward.
Yeah.
And it is generated entirely by prospection, by looking forward.
Wow.
Yeah, the brain computes the anticipation of living out a core value using the exact same biological currency it uses for physical survival rewards.
And that biological reality completely reframes how we should be starting our days. I mean, if we can trigger that kind of profound structural reward system just by consciously directing our thoughts, we are leaving a massive amount of cognitive leverage on the table every single morning.
Oh, absolutely. We are looking at the architecture of the human nervous system today and how to essentially hijack its default settings.
The mission here is to synthesize cutting-edge neuroscience, ancient yogic traditions, and modern psychological frameworks into an actionable blueprint for your morning. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it. We have a lot of ground to cover.
We really do. We were pulling from clinical studies on the brain's reward systems, from the PMC database, expert psychological frameworks from Fiton, Groundbreaker Therapy, and Live Hospital.
And for the physical hardware side of things, we are diving into physiological breathing manuals from the Rutgers School of Nursing, 82 Degrees E, and SED in France.
So before we get into breathing or physical routines, we have to look at the very first moments of consciousness. Like, what is the software running in your brain when you first wake up?
It is usually chaos. The moment consciousness boots up, most of us open our eyes, and there is this immediate, almost crushing avalanche of obligations.
The dread about a specific project, the lingering anxiety from yesterday's email. We are on a dead sprint before the covers even move.
And what do? We reach straight for the device on the nightstand.
Ugh, the phone. Every time.
Right, to confirm those anxieties, which, according to the Fiton source, is catastrophic from a neurobiological perspective. Experts agree the absolute first ritual must be a firm no work, no phone boundary.
And that isn't just some productivity hack, right? It is a defense against our own evolutionary wiring.
Exactly. It ties directly into the negativity bias. Our minds are evolutionarily wired to focus on the negative.
Because in our ancestral environment, ignoring a positive thing just meant you missed a meal, but ignoring a negative thing meant you became a meal.
Right. So when you look at emails immediately, it triggers this downward mood spiral.
Yeah.
But let's look at how that interacts with sleep inertia.
Oh, okay. Let's get into the brain states.
When you first wake up, your brain is transitioning out of theta and delta wave states. The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for executive function, logic, and emotional regulation, is essentially the last part of the brain to fully come online.
The logical firewall is still booting up.
Exactly. But the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, is highly sensitive right out of the gate.
So your threat radar is fully powered up, but the logical system that tells you, this isn't a real threat, is still asleep.
Yes. So when you reach for your phone in that highly vulnerable, half-awake state, you are flooding a defenseless amygdala with highly engineered, unpredictable stimuli. News alerts, demanding emails, social comparison.
It is like opening the front door of your house to 100 screaming strangers the second you wake up before you have even had a glass of water.
That is a perfect analogy. It forces the nervous system to instantly snap from a parasympathetic rest state into sympathetic hyperarousal.
And then you spend the rest of the day trying to down-regulate from a massive artificial cortisol spike that you induced yourself.
Which is why replacing that default phone habit with a conscious cognitive anchor is so critical. If the brain is desperately looking for an input upon waking, we have to provide one that is structurally sound.
Which brings us back to that fMRI study and the power of positive affirmations. Now, I have to admit, when I first see the word affirmation in the clinical literature, especially in the protocols from Chloe Flattard, my mind immediately goes to, like, cheesy 1990s self-help tropes.
Standing in the mirror saying, "I am a tiger."
Yes. I am successful. It feels inherently unscientific to me.
Well, that skepticism is valid because the mainstream execution of affirmations often ignores the actual mechanism of neuroplasticity. The fMRI data completely dismantles the fluffy reputation of this practice.
Right. It reveals that just repeating a hollow phrase does absolutely nothing. The methodology of that PMC study is what really caught my attention.
They didn't just have people say positive things. They had them identify their specific, deeply held core values. Things like autonomy, creative expression, or deep familial connection.
And then while inside the scanner, they were prompted to reflect on scenarios involving those specific values.
And the resulting neuroimaging showed massive activation in two key areas, the ventral striatum and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex.
Okay, let's break those down for a second. What is the ventral striatum actually doing in this context?
So the ventral striatum is deeply involved in the brain's reward circuitry. It processes reward prediction errors and motivation. When you anticipate a reward, it lights up, driven by dopaminergic pathways.
Okay, so it is basically the I want this feels good center.
Exactly. And the ventromedial prefrontal cortex is heavily involved in assigning subjective value to things and integrating emotional regulation. It is the self-processing system.
So that is the this is who I am and this is highly valuable to me center.
Effectively, yes. And the study demonstrated that reflecting on abstract, deeply personal core values activates this exact same pathway.
But the crucial finding, the variable that made the activation spike exponentially, was the future orientation.
Right, prospection. When participants reflected on past instances of living their values, there was some activity. But when asked to imagine a future scenario embodying those values, the neural activation went off the charts.
Wait, so if I just stand in the mirror and say, I am successful, my brain doesn't just light up. It has to be tied to a future value.
Exactly. The brain is a prediction machine. It rewards you for simulating a successful future survival strategy.
It sounds like the brain is a GPS. If you just wake up and don't plug in a future destination, it just spins, right? It obsesses over the current location, which is usually stress.
Yes.
But future-focused affirmations input the actual coordinates. You give it a destination.
That is exactly it. You are preemptively priming your neural reward pathways so that when stress does hit later, your brain is already anchored in a broader, value-based perspective.
And this neural activation actually predicted real-world behavior change, didn't it?
It did. Specifically, a significant decrease in sedentary behavior in the month following the intervention. They actually altered their habits because they changed the baseline valuation of their own identity.
That is wild. So if we apply this to the morning routine, the rules for building an effective affirmation become very clear based on the Flattard source. It must be positive, it has to be personal, and it has to be in the present tense.
The present tense is key. I am, not I will be. The present tense forces cognitive dissonance.
Oh, interesting. How so?
If you say, I will be calm, you are confirming to your brain that you are currently not calm. You are pushing the reward into an unattainable future.
Ah, I see.
Saying, I am calm, or I embody peace in chaos, forces the brain to resolve the discrepancy between the statement and your current physiology.
And the protocols also heavily emphasize utilizing sensory anchors, right? Like adopting a specific posture or using a scent to amplify the effect.
Yes, Hebb's law states that neurons that fire together wire together. Engaging multiple cortical areas simultaneously, like speaking aloud, adopting an expansive posture, and smelling peppermint, builds a multi-lane highway for that specific cognitive state.
So you've set your mental GPS with these future affirmations, but what happens when you hit inevitable traffic?
Because you will hit traffic.
Right. The affirmation isn't a magic shield. Your boss is still going to move a deadline up. You need a framework to process incoming stressors.
Which is where the cognitive behavioral structures come into play. The literature from Live Hospital provides a very sharp critique of how we typically handle acute stress.
Yeah, traditional approaches have massive limitations. Live Hospital notes that methods like medication only offer temporary symptom relief and can have side effects.
We habitually rely on downstream interventions. We wait until the anxiety is physically overwhelming, and then we try to suppress the symptoms.
We treat the physiological exhaust rather than looking at the engine itself.
Exactly. We need a holistic cognitive framework. Live Hospital outlines a highly structured upstream intervention known as the 5 A's framework.
Let's deep dive into the 5 A's because on the surface, awareness, acceptance, attitude, action, and assistance sounds a bit like a corporate HR poster.
It really does, but it is a rigorous sequence for downregulating the amygdala. And the sequence is the most critical part. You cannot skip steps.
Okay, so step 1, awareness. Identifying personal triggers like work, relationships, finances. Because you can't fix what you can't see.
Right. This is fundamentally about interoception, the brain's perception of the body's internal state. Most people exist in a state of profound interoceptive blindness.
They don't realize they were stressed until their jaw is locked and their heart is pounding.
Exactly. Awareness is the practice of consciously linking a physiological shift to an environmental trigger.
Once you have identified the trigger, you hit the second A, acceptance. And this is the paradox of acceptance.
It is fascinating because acceptance isn't resignation. In a psychological context, it has absolutely nothing to do with giving up.
Right. If I get a massive unexpected bill, acceptance isn't saying, oh, well, I guess I'm going bankrupt.
No, it means acknowledging reality without judgment. There is a concept called the second arrow that illustrates this perfectly. The first arrow is the painful event, the bill. It causes unavoidable pain.
But we immediately shoot ourselves with a second arrow.
Yes, which is our reaction, our resistance, and our judgment about the first arrow. I'm an idiot for not seeing this coming. I'm a failure.
Judging yourself for being stressed adds a secondary layer of emotional reactivity.
And that generates a massive amount of secondary suffering. Acceptance is simply dodging the second arrow. Removing the judgment lowers the emotional impact.
You stop arguing with reality, which naturally bridges into the third A attitude.
Challenging catastrophic and all-or-nothing thinking. Reframing the perspective.
Catching those absolute terms, the always and nevers, and replacing them with accurate, localized language.
You are effectively removing the fuel source from the amygdala.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Action is placed fourth. Most of us jump straight to action when stressed, trying to frantically fix things without awareness, acceptance, or the right attitude.
Which just creates more chaos. Action taken from a state of hyper-aroused, unaccepted stress is almost always erratic and inefficient.
It's like trying to put out a grease fire by blindly throwing everything in your kitchen at it.
Exactly. The sequence forces you to pause, regulate the internal state, and assess the reality before you move. So when you do act, you're creating a personalized stress response plan with SMART goals.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. And then the final A, assistance, is just leveraging support networks, right? Friends, family, or cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes, acknowledging the biological necessity of co-regulation.
Okay, so we've mapped out the cognitive software with affirmations and the 5 A's, but our minds are housed in physical bodies reacting to physical environments. How do we physically anchor this calm in the morning?
We have to shift from psychology to chronobiology. If your biological clock is misaligned, your endocrine system will flood you with stress hormones regardless of your mindset.
This brings us to the power of light and sleep hygiene. FitOn has this here comes the sun rule, 5 to 10 minutes of natural sunlight immediately upon waking.
Which regulates melatonin and cortisol, clearing brain fog and actually helping you sleep better the next night.
But the mechanism beneath this is hardcore neurobiology. It centers on these specific neurons in the eye, right?
Yes. Intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, or IPRGCs. They contain a photopigment called melanopsin that is incredibly sensitive to the blue light present in morning sunlight.
And when morning photons hit these cells, an electrical signal travels down the optic nerve straight into the master biological clock.
The suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. When the SCN receives that light data, it tells the adrenal glands to release a sharp, healthy pulse of cortisol.
And we need that cortisol spike to stand up and clear out sleep inertia. But at the same time, that light signal suppresses melatonin production right then and sets a timer for a melatonin surge 14 to 16 hours later.
So skipping morning light blunts your morning energy and delays your evening sleep. You flatten the entire circadian wave.
That is fascinating. And the absolute worst way to compound that confusion is the don't snooze rule from FitOn.
Waking up on the first alarm starts the day with a psychological win.
I love this analogy. Hitting snooze is like hitting pause on a downloading file. It corrupts your sleep cycle and makes you start the day in a state of fragmented failure.
It plunges your brain into the deepest part of sleep inertia and then forces it to wake up from that state.
There is also a bonus tip here. A successful morning routine actually starts the night before with 15 minutes of prep.
Laying out clothes, packing lunch. You are protecting your executive function by offloading mundane decisions.
Okay, so the environment is streamlined. Then the psychological frameworks recommend morning meditation, pulling from groundbreaker therapy.
Just starting with 5 to 10 minutes.
And the physiological benefits are huge. It lowers cortisol, boosts endorphins, and enhances productivity by reducing mind wandering.
But we need to connect this back to the anchor concept. It's not about emptying the mind.
Right. Expecting the brain to stop thinking is like expecting your kidneys to stop filtering blood. It's a myth that keeps people from meditating.
What meditation actually does is target the default mode network, or the DMN, the network active when we are mind-wandering or ruminating.
So it's about observing thought so you can respond with intention rather than reacting on autopilot. You notice the distraction and pull your focus back to the anchor.
You are building the capacity to observe a thought without automatically reacting to it.
Okay, so if meditation is the vehicle, breathing is the steering wheel. The most direct, immediate bridge between your conscious mind and your physical stress response is your breath.
Respiration is a unique physiological anomaly. It is the only vital autonomic function that we can instantly seize conscious control over.
And the ancient yogic traditions mapped this out thousands of years ago. The source from 82 degrees E breaks down yoga pranayama. Prana means life force, and yama means control.
They highlight 3 specific techniques. The first is nadi shodhan, or alternate nostril breathing.
Inhaling through one nostril, exhaling through the other.
Yes, which balances the left and right hemispheres of the brain and brings the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems into equilibrium.
It overrides the natural nasal cycle. Then there is ujjayi, the victorious breath, constricting the back of the throat to create a whispering, friction-like sound.
That constriction extends the exhalation, which lowers blood pressure and generates internal heat. It stimulates the baroreceptors in the neck.
And the third one is kapalabhati, the skull-shining breath. Forceful, rapid exhalation through the nose, emphasizing the lower belly.
It energizes, detoxifies, and stimulates the mind.
But there is an important note here. It must be done on an empty stomach, and it is contraindicated for pregnancy or high blood pressure. Right.
Yes, because it is essentially hyperventilation. It massively spikes sympathetic arousal.
So not a tool for morning calm, but let's look at the Rutgers School of Nursing protocol, the 4-7-8 method. They call it a natural tranquilizer for the nervous system.
The technique is highly structured. Tongue behind the upper front teeth. Inhale quietly through the nose for 4, hold for 7, exhale completely through the mouth with a whoosh sound for 8. Do 4 cycles to start.
So what does this all mean? Why these specific numbers?
The absolute time isn't as important as the ratio. The extended hold allows for maximum gas exchange, leveraging the Bohr effect where a slight decrease in blood pH causes hemoglobin to release oxygen more readily.
So the hold makes the oxygen more bioavailable, and the double exhalation time is what biologically forces the heart rate to slow down.
Exactly.
We've touched on how breathing slows the heart, but let's take this to its scientific extreme. How can we use the heart and lungs to completely hijack our body's autopilot system with cardiac coherence?
We need to understand the autonomic nervous system, pulling from the SED in France source. The ANS regulates everything from digestion to pupil dilation.
There is the sympathetic branch, the gas pedal, fight or flight, mobilizes energy, releases cortisol.
And the parasympathetic branch, the brake pedal. Polyvagal theory by Stephen Porges shows a dorsal vagal brake immobilization or fainting, and a ventral vagal brake, which is for rest, digest, social safety, and calming the heart.
There is a specific listener relevance here for individuals with hypermobility, like SED or HSD. This vagal brake is often suboptimal, leading to dysautonomia, dizziness, racing heart.
Yes, their nervous system struggles to effectively apply this gentle brake.
To strengthen it, we look at heart rate variability, or HRV. Your heart doesn't beat like a metronome. The time between beats constantly changes.
Right. High-amplitude HRV is a primary biomarker of profound physical and psychological health.
And the biological hack here is that inhaling inhibits the vagus nerve, accelerating the heart. Exhaling compresses the abdomen, stimulating the vagus nerve, slowing the heart.
Which brings us to the 3.6.5 cardiac coherence method.
Let's break down those numbers.
3 times a day. Most important is the morning, to counteract the natural waking cortisol peak.
Okay, and the 6?
6 breaths per minute. This is the universal frequency, about 0.1 hertz, where heart and breath synchronize to maximize HRV.
And 5 minutes. The exact time needed before intrusive thoughts usually break focus, yet enough time to trigger hormonal shifts.
The technique is simple. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. Continuous, no pauses.
It's like tuning an instrument. 5 in, 5 out tunes you to neutral. But there are variations for specific needs, right? Like adjusting the dials.
Yes. 6 in, 4 out to energize and stimulate the sympathetic system in the morning. Or 4 in, 6 out to relax and stimulate the parasympathetic system for evening or sleep.
And the chemical results are staggering. Immediately, it lowers cortisol, spikes DHEA, the anti-aging hormone IgA for immune defense, oxytocin for bonding, and stabilizes dopamine and serotonin.
And long-term, after 7 to 10 days, it lowers blood pressure, improves sugar regulation, and dramatically increases pain tolerance.
Wow. Okay, so synthesizing all of this into the ultimate morning routine. Wake up, don't snooze, avoid the phone, get 5 minutes of sunlight, set your mental GPS with a future-oriented positive affirmation.
Then spend 5 minutes doing 3.6.5 cardiac coherence, or 4-7-8 breathing, to physically align your nervous system with that calm intention.
It really is an entire operating system for the morning.
It is. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Think about your smartphone. Every single night, you diligently plug it in. You ensure it has a full 100% uninterrupted charge before you unplug it and let the world drain its battery.
Yeah, you would never start the day on 12%.
Never. But how much time do you spend consciously booting up your own nervous system in the morning? Tomorrow morning, before you let the world install its daily stress updates on your mind, take 5 minutes to install your own software.
That is so powerful. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredibly deep dive into the science of morning calm. Take a deep, coherent breath as you step into your day, and we will see you on the next deep dive.